Hi everybody, last week I went car shopping. I needed to find a four-door sedan for the family. For those of you who have kept up with my channel, yes, I had a very nice four-door sedan, 2003 Mercedes-Benz E55, but about a year ago I got the crazy idea that I wanted to have a Porsche 911. So I sold the E55, bought the Porsche 911, and then decided that it really wasn't for me. So I sold that, and for the past 4 months we've been driving around in pickup trucks. But last week I put the hammer down, put the nose to the grindstone, and decided I needed to get a family car. And by Friday I had narrowed it down to two cars. Another E55 2004 model with about 70,000 miles. The gentleman wanted $15,000 for it. Or a 1987 Mercedes-Benz 300D turbo diesel with roughly 213,000 miles, but nobody knows for sure because the odometer doesn't work anymore. I was kind of leaning towards the E55 because that's a fast car, that's a sexy car, that's a car that's safe, relatively modern, and faster than just about anything else on the road, even compared with brand new cars. But then I started thinking, for the money I would pay just in taxes and registration on that E55, I could probably buy the 300D turbo diesel. They only wanted $1,900 for that car. Sure, the E55 goes from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 4 seconds, and the 300D 0 to 60 times are measured with a calendar. But I started to think of practicality rather than being fancy. So I ended up going to look at the 300D. And you know what? We came home together. This is a time capsule, folks, straight out of 1987. Sure, it's going to have some issues that I didn't anticipate, but that's just what you get when you buy 30-year-old automobiles. That's also why you should try to get that price down as low as possible, even at the expense of coming off like a donkey. But anyway, I got the car, we made a deal. It's really nice inside too. It's got these great peanut butter vinyl seats, or I mean chairs, pardon me. New cars have seats. This car has chairs. Let's start it up, let you see how it sounds. Is that an old Massey Ferguson coming out of the orchard? Or is it Jenny's garage? Right now you're probably thinking, wait a minute, didn't this joker mention something about machinery of the two-wheeled variety? Yes, I did. See, as I was pulling in to have a look at the Mercedes-Benz, I noticed out of the corner of my eye an old Honda motor scooter. So a little bit later, when I was checking out the car, I casually asked the seller, would you consider parting ways with that old Honda scooter? And he said, you know, that's really just a piece of junk. You don't want it anyway. So I didn't mention anything again until a little bit later on when we were in the pressure cooker, the haggling room. He wanted $1,900 for that car. I offered him $1,200. He said the lowest he could take was $1,600. I said, you've got yourself a deal if you throw in the Honda. And have a look at this, guys. It's a 1988 Honda Elite 80 motor scooter. There's no paperwork, there's no windshield, it's got some battle scars, and the gas smells like it's about 15 years old. The best thing to do with this machine is probably sell the valuable parts for money and then haul the rest to the junkyard.
But seriously, folks, you should know by now I would never let antiquated notions like foresight or common sense get in the way of a good project.
So today I'm going to do my best to get it back on the road. Now, unlike my Trail 90 project, which has been rather protracted, I'd like to get this machine running by the end of the video. Challenge accepted. Let's get to work. So before we jump in and start turning wrenches, I'll just do a quick walk around. Now I bought this machine without any paperwork, so its history is anybody's guess. But there is evidence of a little crash down here. The dead giveaway is this broken plastic and dented floorboard. I do have the side covers that go right here, which is great because I'd really like to preserve the plastic spaceship look. Both of the tires are worn, but they should be good for a few more miles. We have the duct tape special up here on the seat, and someone even went the extra mile to paint it black. They must have been a Rolling Stones fan. There's another dent over here to match the port side. The windshield is missing, and it looks like about 8,000 miles on the clock. It definitely has some bumps and bruises, but overall the bike is mostly complete. Except that I don't have an ignition key. Now I realize you're probably thinking, Jake, there's no key, no paperwork, can't you read the writing on the wall? I know I could be getting into some risky business here, but I'm willing to accept the fact that this machine may have been owned by someone who was very forgetful. But all speculation aside, the first thing I need to do to revive this 40-mile-per-hour intergalactic cruiser is turn on this switch. Now I really don't know the first thing about picking locks, and whenever I've seen it done in the movies, it's either a smooth-talking con man or good-looking girl. I'm not a con man, and I don't have any plans to become one. Or a female, for that matter. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I went on YouTube to get an idea of how the job is done, and most of the folks on there used a tool made out of thin metal with bumps on one end that loosely resembled a key. They wiggled the tool around inside the lock, and with just the right touch eventually got it to turn. So I went into my scrap pile and fabricated something that loosely resembles what I saw on the computer. It looks the part. Let's see if it works. Just on the off chance, I tried my Trail 90 key a little bit earlier, but unfortunately I'm not that lucky. So I'll just put my tool in here along with a flat screwdriver to help turn the lock, and then it's just a matter of moving this around in different directions and hoping for the best. Did you see that? It worked! Step 1, complete. Well, the ignition switch is on, but there aren't any signs of life, and that's because the battery is expired. I tried to give it a charge, but it wouldn't take, and since I'm not sure if this machine is mechanically sound, I'm not ready to buy a new battery. But luckily, I have a spare on hand. This is from an old jet ski. It's a floor model, and it'll be a great temporary power supply just until I can see if this thing has any chance of getting back on the road. So I'll just take off these wires and reroute them down here to the old deep cycle. Okay, we should have some juice now. Let's check out the controls. Turn signals. Alright. Horn. Fair enough. And how about the magic button? I like that sound. The electrical system works, the engine turns over, that's great news, but we're not ready to ride yet. This fuel tank is about half full, and by the smell, I think it's been that way for at least a decade. So this gas is no longer a viable motor fuel, and it has probably turned into a hard, sticky mess and clogged up this carburetor. Now I don't want to spend a bunch of time cleaning out a rusty gas tank or varnishy carburetor only to find out the engine has a rod knock or a broken cam chain. So for just a moment I'll substitute the scooter's entire fuel delivery system with this squirt can full of gasoline. Using this I should be able to get the engine running for a few seconds, and that'll give me a good idea of its basic health. To gain access to the intake tract, I'll remove this rubber boot. Now I'll give it a shot of the good stuff in here and see if it starts. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we just witnessed a miracle. It works! Amazing! But even though the engine runs, before I can legally ride this thing around, I need to get it titled and registered in my name. Because I bought the bike without any documentation, I'm not sure what that entails or if it's even possible. But you know what? I'm feeling lucky today. So let's give it a shot. Alright, who's ready for a road trip? To the DMV. I took off everything that was mounted to these handlebars so I could attach some tie downs. When I brought this thing home, I just laid it down in the back of the pickup truck, but by the time we got here, it had leaked a substantial amount of old gasoline, and I broke a mirror during transport. Here we go, upsy daisy. This is when I'm glad this isn't a Harley-Davidson heavy glide. That should do it. Well, I'm back from my adventure in bureaucracy. It only took me 5 hours, a trip to the Highway Patrol, and 2 separate DMV offices, $81 in fees, and a chocolate ice cream cone for my 3-year-old because he was such a good boy throughout the entire day. But the scooter is now legally titled in my name and registered to ride on the street. The policeman took a look at the VIN number, he ran it through all of his checks and balances. It came out clean, so aside from a few particulars, we're just about ready to ride. I still can't believe this thing started up on that old gas. I don't even think I'd classify that as gas. Matter of fact, if I had a wood boat, I could probably use that to refinish the bottom side. But I'm not complaining. Heck, if it'll run on that, maybe it'll run on garbage water. The 2 main components I needed to get this scooter roadworthy were a battery. I found this for $25 at Walmart, and an ignition switch. It turns out that Honda motorcycle ignitions have the key code stamped on the outer housing. So I took out this switch, found the code, and was able to order a new key for less than $10. Yahoo! Let's put it back together. I've got my new battery unboxed and filled with electrolyte. Pro tip, don't spill battery acid on your fingers. So while I wait for this to charge, I'll go ahead and reinstall the ignition switch. I really don't like this flimsy plastic bodywork. I feel like if I ever crashed this thing, it would just look like a big puff of confetti. The ignition switch is ready to go. The next step is to secure these parts up front so they don't detach onto my face while driving. This thing is so flimsy, it's like I'm working on Barbie's Corvette. Well, the front end is pretty much put back together, but I don't want to forget these stylish louvers. Perfect. Next, I'll move up here and put this cowl back together. I think it's rather funny that Honda named this motorcycle Elite. I realize there are many different types of elite individuals, but I highly doubt any of them would choose this 35-mile-per-hour plastic lunchbox as their primary mode of transportation. It reminds me of the smart car. Hi-yo! There we go, there we go. The front end looks pretty good. Next I want to fix up this frame rail that got tweaked out just a little bit. Here at the shop we have a wide selection of specialty tools for the body and fender professional. Just a bend right here, and a pry right here. There we are. Just as nice as the day she rolled off that very high cliff. Say, what's your name? Matt. Next, I better cover up this intimidating power plant. Whew! That was a lot of work. But for a total investment of less than $150, the Elite 80 motor scooter is fully assembled, registered, and ready to hit the highway. Mission accomplished. But you don't have to take my word for it. Let me show you what I'm working on. I just picked up a couple of Sony action cameras, a microphone, and a sound recorder because I'd like to put together a couple ride-along videos of the Trail 90 and this, our newest addition to the Jenny's Garage stables. So as soon as I can figure out how all this stuff works, I'll go for a ride, put it on YouTube, and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.